This is Cult Film Face Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face Off, episode 71. With me, as always, is Chet Roivers.
Hello.
And I am Nick Leonard. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor for this week's episode, About Vintage, who are a boutique watch company based in Copenhagen. I was in Copenhagen a couple of months ago. I popped into their flagship store in the city and was just blown away by these beautifully sleek designed watches. If you're into watches whatsoever, I urge you to check out their Instagram, Facebook, beautiful timeless chronograph designs using modern components. They're just sick watches. Definitely check them out.
I take it you don't have to go to Copenhagen to get one.
No, you can order them online.
What was it called? About Vintage?
About Vintage.
Oh, that's
So, this week's episode, we're going to be looking at two smash 90s hit comedies. We did Bill and Ted last week. This week is Wayne and Garth. So, first up, and broadcasting a cable access show from their parents' basement saying shawing-a-lot, we have Wayne's World from 1992, directed by
Penelope Spheris.
Wayne's World from 1992, directed by Penelope Spheris.
There's an H there. Spheris. Penelope Spheris.
Penelope Spheris.
Yeah, there we go.
Wayne is still living at home. He's a world-class collection of name tags from jobs he's tried, but he does have his own public access TV show. A local station decides to hire him and his sidekick Garth to do their show professionally. Wayne falls for a bass guitarist and uses his and Garth's video contacts to help her career along, knowing that Ben Oliver, the sleazy advertising guy who's ruining their show, will probably take her away from him if they fail. Wayne's World.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning.
Just outside of Chicago.
Galileo.
In the basement of this house.
It's Wayne's World, party time, excellent.
Broadcast history is about to be made.
Extreme close-up. Wow!
I want you to find out who these guys are and where they do their show.
What is this?
Mr. Vanderhoff, this is your audience.
It's two chimps on a Davenport in a basement.
Here I am with the contract for $5,000.
Excuse me?
Now they're on their way
No way.
Wait.
to fame.
Will you still love me when I'm in my carbohydrate sequin jumpsuit? Young girls in white cotton panties, bloated, purple, dead on a toilet face?
To fortune.
Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
And to babe heaven.
What do you do if every time you see this one incredible woman, you think you're gonna hurl?
I say hurl. If you blow chunks and she comes back, she's yours. If you spew and she bolts, it was never meant to be.
Okay.
It's Wade.
This is definitely the type of place I'm gonna get when I move out of my parents' house.
It's Garth.
I love you, God.
If she were a president, she'd be Abraham Lincoln.
It's a movie.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Wayne's World.
Hi, Wayne.
It just might be the greatest motion picture ever made.
Are you mental? Beelzebub has the devil put aside for me. For me.
Wayne's World.
So, Wayne's World, I'm assuming you've seen it many times.
I saw it at the cinema many times, many more times on home video. Mad love for it when I was 11, 12, whenever it came out.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
I saw both at the cinema.
Yeah.
This obviously being the first one. How do you think it holds up?
Well, I loved it passionately when I was a kid. This really illustrates how brutally short the shelf life is on almost all comedies. It was like looking at a clapped out old car that I used to drive. It was like that old red, what was the red car that you had when we were in college? What
Was it clapped out?
It would be clapped out now, is what I mean. But that's what I mean. Back in the day, you got the stories we'd have. Oh, mate, do you remember that motor? I mean, like, people loved it back in the day. Would you like to admire it for 90 minutes? No, to the junkie with it. So I was like, I think it's brutal when you look at movies like this. They just don't hold up at all, I didn't think. I mean,
I was watching it. I was looking it through the crack of my fingers.
Yeah.
I was just embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't think I was embarrassed, but I was like, wow, these things just don't. They're not meant to last. They're not built to last. I mean, this is is obviously a Saturday Night Live spin-off. Are you familiar with Saturday Night Live?
SNL-inspired comedies are responsible for some of the worst comedies ever committed to celluloid.
That's true.
The Ladies' Man, Night of the Roxbury. Night of the Roxbury is teeth-itchingly terrible. It's one of the most god-awful movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, although there's a lot of love for it, it's kind of coming back as a cult movie, Night of the Roxbury. But yeah, Saturday Night Live has always kind of confused me because, they start with a clean slate every week, and that means a lot of it is topical and a lot of it is inspired, but a lot of it is slapdash and desperate. And I think that's true of this film. It's less so because you can watch an episode of Saturday Night Live and there's nothing good in it. Whereas this is obviously, they've made it in a sort of similarly, in terms of movie making, constricted time frame, and it kind of shows. There's a lot of weirdly arbitrary bits that I found that I would never have bothered me when I was a kid, but now I just kind of looked at it going, what I mean, it's tiny things really. But for example, the film kind of opens very near the beginning. You see a scene where Rob Lowe and his colleague go to the radio station, and then they say, we're here to see Wayne and Garth, and they say, well, they don't broadcast from here, they broadcast from their house, and then cut to them driving up the drive, and I'm just like, that you don't need to have read one of the millions of screenwriting textbooks to know that is a waste of time. Why have I just spent an hour of my life watching that? This completely superfluous information. Later on, there's a scene where Cassandra and Wayne, he's rushing to her music video, and it cuts between the car and her music video, and it goes on for about 2 minutes, and I was watching it thinking, this is wasting my time. And then suddenly out of nowhere, Robert Patrick appears from Terminator 2. And then I thought, is that 2 minutes? It wasn't a setup to the joke. I've been watching sort of a montage of nothing for 2 minutes, and then the T-1000 turns up. And when I was a kid, I thought, Terminator 2. Now I was just like, that's another 2 minutes of my life wasted. This may sound harsh, but I was just kind of I just felt inspired to pick holes in it, because films like this are like leftovers anyway. You sift through the bits and you go, I like that bit, I like that bit, and you ignore everything else, and then at the end you go, overall I kind of like that. But some of it's just so fucking... It just doesn't even get some of the basics right. I was picking holes at it from the off, because it started rubbing me up the wrong way when Rob Lowe and his girlfriend are watching Wayne and Garth, and she's going, oh my god, these guys are so funny, they're so great. It's just like, okay, stop shoving this down my throat already. Mike Myers mugging to the camera gets old really quick. Dana Harvey, who I remembered being really endearing and funny as Garth, just comes off as super creepy. The best gag for me is Garth's dog having the same hair as Garth. The hair metal dog. I love that. That was the funniest bit. That was the funniest bit. The second funniest bit for me, or the second always consistently funny, is from Ed O'Neill, is the diner the diner owner who crops up randomly talking about murder and revenge. They are the only funny bits in the film. I think the Ed O'Neill stuff still works. I still think the Alice Cooper scene is amusing. And I do think, actually, although it's dated terribly, I remember my mind being blown by the sponsorship gags. Is that the first time that... Because I remember just thinking, this is Simpsons level genius. I was like, this is hysterical. Are you talking about when he does his hair? No. When they first get in front of the camera and it's Pepsi and then it's Pizza Hut. We're not going to sell out. I remember thinking that was hilarious. And it's great in that, like where comedians always say you've got to stay in the bit if it works. They milk that joke, and I remember thinking it was gold. That kind of humour is still around today. It's a lot more sophisticated, but I do wonder if that was the first instance of it. So I have to give it kudos for that, because I do remember riffing on product placement. Yeah, I thought that was hysterical, and I had not seen it done. I was a child, but I'm pretty sure it hadn't been done before. I thought my two favourite bits were, there's a scene where they're at a garage, like a car workshop, and they're speaking to one of their friends, and he just starts, you should have been at the club at Friday. It's like, yeah, we were. Yeah, there was this hot bow. It's like, yeah, we were there that whole time. It's a completely nonsense, nothing scene, but it's very funny, him trying to convince his friend that they were there together. I also like, Rob Lowe is excellent in this film, I'll give him that. There's one scene where he tries for the first time to actually have a conversation with Garth, and this horror movie soundtrack sort of builds, and then Garth starts smashing that arm post up, and they just stand there looking at it. I thought that was a very, very funny bit. I don't think I disliked it as much as you, but I was just thinking, this is like, I don't want to say landfill. It's just it was something made to amuse as many people as possible at the time, and this was a monster success. I mean, like, huge. So many more people have seen this than either of the Bill and Ted films. But it's kind of a window into a different time. I also don't know how well it stands up, because I'm not hanging around with the youth of today, but those characters, I knew so many people like that, ultra amiable, metalheads. There were so many people like that, so it was legitimately, you were making fun of an actual group of people. I don't know if people like that exist anymore. They're not. I don't. Most people would probably watch this, I should imagine, and say, I don't know what's funny about
these two much older guys playing younger guys.
I felt that way. I mean, and the other thing is, I don't know whether this is a strength or a weakness. It's more of just of an observation. They're not stupid. Bill and Ted are actually fucking dopes.
Yeah.
But these guys are just kind of willfully shielding themselves from the world.
Yeah, and it's weird because they're not dopes and they're not geeks.
Yeah, but
Garth, I've been waiting. Garth's a bit of a social outcast geek. Well, he's also like borderline genius, isn't he? Because he can play the drums ridiculously well.
Right.
They're just not as endearing characters like Bill and Ted are.
That's true. I mean, I have a lot of time for Mike Myers, but he did test my patience on a couple of times because I mean, it's a bold move to have somebody addressing the camera persistently.
And all of those, don't forget, like all of these catchphrases were proper vernacular. Everyone was quoting Wayne's World.
In a way, this is a completely illegitimate comparison for Bill and Ted because this was a fucking phenomenon. Phenomenon. I mean, it was so huge and so beloved. But I mean, I think listing the moments: Garth's hair metal dog, Rob Lowe, the smack.
That cracked me up. The hair metal dog was. I mean, that was the only laugh out loud moment.
I loved the sight gag when Wayne starts putting those arrows at Bill Murray's brother, and then there's a sight gag of them looking left and right at each other. That's funny, but this is the problem. I like that joke, but it's the genesis of the film that's the issue, because you have these characters that people like. Why don't you make a film? See you in 12 months. So it's made in that same kind of slapdash. It doesn't feel like a film. It feels like they've had to
disconnected scene. It's just scenes.
That goes without saying. There's a lot of comedies are like that, but I just, like I said, I kept thinking of the analogy of a car. I was like, cool, back in the day, this was the business, was it? It was like fucking shit. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know. This was the fucking business back in the day. Fucking just get rid of it. Get it out of my fucking sight.
That is
I am certain, absolutely. It's been a long time since. Actually, that's a complete lie. This finished and I was like, I am never ever going to watch that film again. There's a small part of my heart that loves it because it did mean the world to me when I was a kid, and I went back to see it. I mean, I probably saw it 5 times at the cinema. Loved it.
I saw it at the cinema a few times.
Yeah.
I definitely saw it more than once at the cinema.
But
yeah, it's
the same with most comedies. They have to put them out quickly to appeal to as many people as possible, and then there are some jokes, some of which I mentioned, that really stand up. But on the whole, over an hour and a half, I was kind of like. Yeah.
I found it exhausting by the end.
I didn't dislike it as much as you did, but I was just thinking like this is just this is like watching.
I mean, I remember like watching it the first time, thinking, oh yeah, it's so inventive, all those different endings, Scooby-Doo ending. I was just thinking, oh, fucking end.
Yeah. I didn't feel as intensely as you did, but I definitely did feel it. So yeah.
Right. Well, so let's go on to the next.
Yes, let's move on.
Okay. So Wayne's World 2. Which came out the following year, the very next year, in 1993, directed by Steven Surjik. The inseparable duo try to organise a rock concert while Wayne must fend off a record producer who has an eye for his girlfriend. Wayne's World 2.
Paramount Pictures presents
Extreme Closer! Wow!
That was just like the first movie.
Wayne.
It's Heather Locklear. There is a God.
Heather be thy name.
And Garth.
I feel weird.
In their first movie since their last one.
What's it called? It's called,
Wayne's World 2.
Yes!
Wow.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
Welcome to Makita's.
Yes. Ruler, a ox, and a Makita cup.
What?
They've moved out of the basement.
I'm what you call Sans parents.
And into the spotlight.
Yes, and could I please have a donut and onion string?
Let me try to recap the order. A crawler, 2 sugar pucks, a Stanley cup, a large coffee with cream, a raspberry jelly donut, orange drink, and a box of 5 holes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the love affair of the year.
I'm Honey. Horny.
Nice to meet you, Miss Horny.
Take me, Garth.
Where? I'm low on gas and you need a jacket.
It's the fight of the decade. And the rock concert of the century.
Mr. Campbell, you're serious about putting on a rock concert? Are you kidding? I'd give my right eye.
It's Wayne.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
It's Garth.
Howdy on.
It's a whole new world.
Do it, Miss Thing!
And it's Hurley your way. Wayne's World 2.
Oh, I almost forgot it. This year, Garth finally got pubes.
It's the sequel you knew was coming.
You didn't tell him about my pubes, did you?
No, of course not.
Right, so Wayne's World 2. Obviously, you've seen Wayne's World 2?
Yes.
At the cinema?
No. I saw it on VHS. I knew we were going to the US on holiday, and I knew that it was out on video there. So I think I avoided, because we were going so soon. I thought I can see it at the cinema and then go there and know it's on video. So we rented it when we were on holiday.
And fond memories?
No, not really. I didn't think much of it at all at that time. I just thought it was a terrible, pale imitation of the original back then. Did you like it back then?
I don't really remember much about it. I remember saying to somebody at work, I was like, Wayne's World 2, Wayne's World 2? And they're like, yeah, Wayne Stock. And I was like, and then I was like, oh, hang on a minute, Wayne Stock, is that the one with Ralph Brown playing a pseudo version of his character from With Dan and I?
Yeah.
And my mate was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. Did I remember liking it as much? I thought the original was much better. I don't feel like that now.
Neither do I.
Wayne World 2 is way better.
I feel like I felt the same way. Like I was looking at a clapped out banger that was basically dead, but it's way funnier.
Yeah.
And I think, it is all about Ralph Brown. To be honest, he's barely in it, but everything around him is gold. His performance is terrific. The idea of tryouts for roadies. Training for
roadies is pretty.
That's one of
the. They should have done a whole film.
They could have milked that joke.
They could have done a whole film.
As soon as I thought this is great. What a great idea for a skit, and then they just kind of do a couple of bits and then it's over. He keeps telling the same anecdote. It's based on that old. I can't remember. It's a famous story about Brown Eminem. Someone I think Ozzy Osbourne, or I thought it was like who was that fucking Motley Crue. I thought it was about that. I don't know. It's one of those tales, but. It keeps catching him telling the same
but it's
joke.
Getting more and more preposterous in each retelling,
and it ends with someone being beaten to death with their own shoes. That never stopped being amusing. Every time he is the best thing in the film. Although I think the best single scene or single sequence in either of these films by a fucking mile is the Kim Basinger seduction scene, because it's primarily slapstick. It's really, really broad, really, really well executed slapstick that I was just
really good. Kim Basinger,
really terrific. And this is another. You could say like the Ben and Ted films. I think. Christopher Walken's very amusing.
Christopher Walken is better than. You got to do like for like comparisons. Christopher Walken. I was laughing way more at how fucking serious and how pissed off Christopher Walken was compared to Rob Lowe.
I think it's difficult. That's a difficult one.
Because Rob Lowe's right-hand man, who he's working with, he's just annoying. Whereas Christopher Walken is just brilliantly cast.
I think I think they're on a par, to be honest. But again, it's one of those ones where it benefits from side players who are really good.
Standout sequence for me is the Shaw brothers badly dubbed fight sequence, which is still very good with Cassandra's dad. Yeah. That's the show stealer for me.
Yeah.
And the YMCA showpiece, I think you could say it almost matches the Bohemian Rhapsody in the first outing. That's quite funny. Quite un-PC, the representation of gays in that scene.
Yeah, true. No doubt about that.
There's loads of riffing on Hollywood films that I don't remember there being in the first one, which I like. There's Jurassic Park in there. There's Thelma and Louise in there. You've got The Graduate ending, which is completely played out.
It was weird. Those. I don't really have a massive tolerance for those kind of. You call them spoofs. They just kind of just reference them and then they walk away. And this is still a kids' film, really, but this is so much stranger than the first one, and not quite. The strangeness should be one of the benefits, but I just, even as somebody who knew what they were getting at, taking the piss out of Val Kilmer's performance as Jim Morrison in The Doors and him standing in the desert, but him talking conspiracy theories with Sammy Davis Jr., I was just like, what were kids thinking back in the day? And then
they didn't recognise who Sammy Davis Jr. is.
No, absolutely not. And also references to The Graduate. that's a long bit.
Yeah, but who the fuck is going to know that?
Exactly. It's so haphazardly grabbing at anything it can to try and get laughs. That, I think it's very impressive that they turned this around in a year. But it's every inch of film they made, in probably realistically 6 months all told.
Yeah, and it pisses on the original.
I think it's better than the original, but the fact that this flopped, I think, just illustrates.
Did it flop?
In comparison to the original, certainly. But it didn't do anywhere near as well as they expected. But I think that goes to show there wasn't enough mileage in these characters anyway. If there's a lot of talk about Bill and Ted 3, and there's a lot of love and anticipation, and people are hoping it gets made. If they announced the Wayne's World 3, would people really care? I can't imagine. I think the failure of the second film was just that it was kind of a flimsy joke, maximised by some talented people, and then there's no more. What would they do with
There's
it?
no more. There's nothing you can leverage out of it.
I would be interested to know what Bill and Ted are doing. I mean, the conceit that the writers have is amazing. I don't really give a fuck what Wayne and Garth are doing. I mean, maybe they could make something great out of it. Maybe I'm just being dismissive because I was really underwhelmed by both of these films. But yeah, the second one is better.
Without a doubt.
Little Bob, do you spot Bob Odenkirk as like the nerd?
No.
He was just... Yeah. He was in there briefly. It was similarly underwhelming, but there was a lot more successful jokes in it, and I think it was a little bit punchier. It
felt punchier,
a lot less amateurish. The things that annoyed me about Wayne's World, like just basic filmmaking skill. I was like, wait, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like either of these films, but I was surprised because I don't remember liking Wayne's World 2 too much when I was a kid.
It just amplified it for me, watching them straight one after the other, and Wayne's World 2, it was just way more enjoyable experience from Wayne's World 1. As I said, Wayne's World 1, I was kind of looking through my fingers through so much of it because I found it so awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I do know where you're coming from, but yeah, I mean, in terms of picking a winner, I mean, there's only one direction I'm going.
Wayne's World 2 all day long.
Yeah, Wayne's World 2. Okay, so we said at the beginning of our previous episode, we were going to rank the Bill and Ted and Wayne's World films into a 4 in order of preference.
Well, we're not going to agree, are we?
Well, we don't have to, thankfully, but it's just out of interest. I mean, I take it yours isn't the same as... Actually, it probably is similar to what... because you initially said it was...
Yeah, so ranking them, it would be Bogus Journey on the top spot.
Right.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Wayne's World 2, Wayne's World 1.
Okay, I'd put Excellent Adventure at the top, then Bogus Journey, then Wayne's World 2, then Wayne's World 1. So, again, fairly similar. Just it's the Wayne's World... it's the Bill and Ted's that fucking shit up.
Yeah. Well, look, we'd really like to hear what you guys think. Let us know if you're big fans of Wayne's World 1.
If you still love Wayne's World.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear
somebody actually sort of articulate why they like it so much. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. All of our episodes are being cut to video and will be available on our YouTube channel. And we'll be back in a few weeks.
Take it easy.
Shopless.